What if I told you that the daughter I love and sacrificed everything for turned out to betray me for the same man who left us? Here's the tale of a mother they believed they could destroy, and how I made them understand that not all betrayals are forgiven. Michael cheated on me during the 10th year of our marriage. Not only did he cheat, but he also went. The day seems like it was yesterday to me. With two tiny children in one hand and divorce papers in the other, he stood in the living room. As if he were a saint, he declared. They need a father. As if breaking our family and his vows were some kind of great sacrifice. At the time, our daughter, Ava, was 7 years old. She sobbed so much that her entire body trembled as she held onto his leg. Please don't go, Daddy. Michael made no hesitation at all. Without turning around, he kissed the top of her head, peeled her hands off his leg, and left the room. It was over in an instant. I didn't plead. I refrained from screaming. I collected half of his belongings, signed the paperwork, and departed with Ava. I never wanted her bound to a guy who might leave her so quickly, so I changed her last name to Cooper, which is my maiden name. I never got married again. I gave parenting Ava everything I had. I worked 2 jobs to pay for her summer camps and piano lessons, put her through school, and stayed up with her when she was sick. I ensured that she never felt as though she was without anything. Michael? He vanished from our existence. He treated the children of his mistress as if they were his own. But Ava? He didn't call. Not once. For that, Ava detested him. She repeatedly told me so. She vowed never to forgive him. I trusted her. I was mistaken. Ava told me she was organizing something special the week before my 60th birthday. Her eyes gleamed as she added, Mom, you've done so much for me. You deserve the party, and I want to give it to you. I told her, You don't have to do that. She gave a head shake. No, I've gotten everything from you. Let me take care of things for you. I was comforted by her words. For me, Ava was everything. She was now a strong, self-sufficient lady. Having a lovely kid, Ellie, and being married to a decent man, Daniel, I loved that young child. She always called me Grandma in that gentle, sing-song voice, and she was sweet and inquisitive. Despite being simple, my life was full. Ava wanted to return something to me after everything. So, yes, I allowed myself to become enthusiastic. I imagined a cozy family get-together. Cake, balloons, Ellie on my lap, and Ava and Daniel grinning next to me. An uncommon time spent together. That was not the case. I got up early on the morning of my birthday. Before Ava and Daniel left for work, I prepared their breakfast. We'll be home early to set things, Ava assured me as she planted a peck on my cheek. Checking the time every 15 minutes, I spent the day cleaning the house. 6:00 p.m. 6:30 p.m. 7:00 p.m. I was beginning to worry by 7:30. When my phone rang, I grabbed it up to contact Ava. Mom, Ava said with a guilty tone. At work, something came up. It may not be possible for us to celebrate today. Despite my disappointment, I forced myself to ignore it. Don't worry, my love. First, work. I feel awful, Ava murmured. But hey, Ellie is being picked up from school by a friend of mine. Just rest at home, please. I didn't like that. Perhaps I should go get her, Mom, Ava cut in abruptly. It has been resolved. Don't worry about it, please. She hung up before I could answer her. The silence in the home seemed suddenly loud as I stood there. Recently, Ava has been extremely busy. She and Daniel were working long hours, barely sleeping. I felt sad for them. In order to provide them with a warm and cozy meal when they arrived home, I made dinner. It was almost 9 o'clock by the time the supper was prepared and the house was clean. No sign of Ava yet. I took out my phone and sat down on the couch. I flipped through posts on social media without thinking. Then I witnessed it. A film. My heart stopped beating. It took place in a hotel's private dining room. Costly. Lavish. Ava stood at the head of a table, smiling brightly. Daniel held Ellie's hand at her side. 6 other people sat around the table, clapping and singing happy birthday. Christine, Michael's mistress, was seated like a queen in the middle of it all. He left me for this woman. Happy birthday, Mom, Ava said with a smile and a stoop. I let the phone drop. No. In an attempt to make sense of it, my mind raced. Ava detested Christine. She detested Michael. For years, we had discussed how he had favored Christine's kids above her, How everything had been taken from me by Christine when she entered my life? In what way, then? Could she have called that lady Mom? I felt sick to my stomach. I sat motionless until my nostrils were filled with the pungent smell of something burning. The cuisine. My palm burned as I rushed to the kitchen and grabbed the pot off the stove. I was not even aware of it. There was a knock on the door. A delivery man was holding a cake when I opened it. I had ordered that dessert for myself. Only a little one. I reasoned that I could at least have something if no one else was going to join me in celebrating. I clasped my hands together, lit the candles, and put down the cake. I had previously made up my mind what I wanted: for Ava to lead a happy life, for Daniel to continue loving her, and for Ellie to grow up strong and healthy. However, as I sat by myself and watched the candles go out, I wished for something else. I hope I can live for myself in the time I have left, to feel joy. Very pleased. Every wish had been for Ava for so long. No more. I sampled a piece of cake. It was sickeningly rich and excessively sweet, similar to the entire life I had created. I was still sitting in the living room at midnight when Ava came through the door. When she spotted me, she froze. "Work was brutal today, Mom," she said in a lighthearted and informal tone. Her gaze strayed to the dessert. "You purchased this for yourself, right?" "Yes." She paused. "Where is Ellie, Mom? With Christine?" I asked icily. Ava's smile went cold. "Where did you go today?" I inquired. Ava's eyes became gloomy. "What are you discussing?" "I was at work, like I mentioned." I grabbed my phone and accessed the video. I flung it on the table before her. Her face went white. I said, "Explain." Ava parted her lips, then shut them again. I waited, and everything fell apart when she finally said something. Ava's face went white as she gazed at the phone, her mouth opening and closing. "Mom," she spoke in a faint, tremulous voice. "I can clarify." I crossed my arms and leaned back. "All right." Daniel, who stood behind her like a deer in headlights, caught her attention. Half drowsy, Ellie held onto his hand. Ava took a deep breath. "That's not what you believe." "Oh?" I raised an eyebrow as I said, "Because it appears that you celebrated Christine's birthday instead of mine." She made a narrow line with her mouth. "It's difficult. Simplify it." Her eyes become stony. "It's been 30 years, Mom. You can't possibly still be upset with Dad." I gave a chilly, scathing chuckle. "This has nothing to do with Michael. This has to do with you deceiving me, telling me that while you were out having fun with the individuals that ruined our family, you were working." Ava's mouth clenched. "Our family wasn't destroyed by Christine." My entire body froze. "She didn't?" I spoke in a dangerously low tone. "I suppose I had an image of Michael holding someone else's children in our living room and telling me that they were more in need of a father than his own daughter." Ava's face turned red. She turned her head away. "It's not that easy." I bent over. "Then simplify it." Her nose wrinkled. "Dad is getting older," she yelled. "He has been attempting to set things right. I was contacted by Christine several years ago. She said she was sorry. She's been making an effort." My chest constricted. "Attempting? Mom, she's not a monster. She has shown me a lot of kindness." "She took your father," I remarked icily. "She substituted her own kids for you. You wept over what they did to you for years." Ava's eyes glowed. Perhaps the first matured. Perhaps the first understood that nobody was benefiting from me, harboring all that animosity. "Are you assisting anyone?" Stunned, I repeated. "They left you behind, left you in pieces. And you're standing up for them now?" Ava's expression darkened. "Christine is like family to me." "Ellie is treated like family by her," I growled. "She's not your family." "She is," Ava retorted. "And perhaps you could have been a part of that as well if you had let go of the past." Something broke inside of me. I got up. "Leave." Ava's eyes got bigger. "What?" I said in a stern voice. "You heard me. Please leave my house with your family, Mom." "I am no longer your mother," I stated bluntly. As if I had slapped her, Ava staggered back. Ellie's tiny hand tightened around Daniel's as she blinked drowsily. "Mom?" Daniel took a step forward, his jaw clenched. "Laura, I betrayed him. You as well. Leave." Daniel's mouth moved. Tears sparkled in Ava's eyes. "I didn't care, though." Ava backed toward the door after taking Ellie's hand. "All right," she answered sharply. If you want it that way, it is. AVA's chin came up. Ellie, hurry up. I saw them walk away silently. I sat back down on the couch and gazed at the meek little cake on the table as the door clicked shut. The candles were long since extinguished. I didn't hear from Ava again for 2 days. She sent me a text, Ava. I apologize for the other night, Mom. Can we have a conversation? I didn't respond. I didn't feel bad for the first time in my life. I'd prioritized Ava for 30 years. After Michael departed, I had given up everything, my time, money, and happiness so she could live a secure existence. Her college tuition was covered by me, contributed to her home's down payment. While she and Daniel were at work, she took care of Ellie nearly every day. And she paid me back like this? By grinning beside Michael and Christine as though we were a single, contented family? I refused to allow her to shatter me. Never again. Ava called again on Sunday. I responded this time. She said, Mom, in a hesitant tone, would you be able to join us for dinner? I chuckled. Do you want me to prepare meals for you? A long pause ensued. Well, yeah, she replied clumsily. I gave a faint smile. No. Ava moaned, Mom, come on, I'm occupied. Are you busy? Ava sounded annoyed. What on earth are you doing? I said, Ava, I'm not sure. Maybe for once I'm living my own life? There was a jarring pause between us. Mom, she exclaimed in a harsh voice. Stop acting this way. Like what? Petty. My stomach turned over. Petty? Indeed, Ava yelled. You don't have to punish me for one mistake, even though I understand that you're upset. A single error? I spoke quietly. Indeed, I said. She said. I haven't abandoned you, really. I gave a sour laugh. Not just yet. Mom, Ava, goodbye. I ended the call. My phone buzzed a week later when I was brewing tea in the kitchen. The screen revealed Nick's name. For years, Nick served as my financial counselor. When Ava was still in high school, he assisted me in investing Michael's settlement money. When I answered, Nick said, Laura, in a piercing tone, we're having trouble. My chest constricted. What sort of issue? Your daughter. I went cold. How about her? She has been attempting to get into your accounts. I gripped the phone more tightly. Pardon me? I flagged it right away, Nick remarked. She attempted to access your retirement account. There were several unsuccessful attempts. My heart began to race. She is aware of the passwords? It appears that she made a guess. She refused to. I said, my voice trailing off. Laura, said Nick. You adore her, I know that. I've seen this before, though. She is in dire need of money. My mouth became parched. Why? Nick stated bluntly. Your daughter and her husband are in debt. Substantial debt. Credit cards, auto loans, and, based on what I can see, their mortgage is overdue. I took a firm seat. Laura, Nick's tone grew softer. Would you like the accounts to be locked down? I shut my eyes. My Ava, was attempting to rob me. Yes, I muttered. Close everything down. Ava arrived at my house that evening. I opened the door to see her standing at my doorstep. Her eyes were puffy and red. Mom, she said. I folded my arms. What are you looking for? She took a deep breath. I need assistance. With what? She let a tear fall down her face. The residence. We've fallen behind on our payments. Not everything is covered by Daniel's work, and no. Her gaze expanded. Mom, I said, you stole from me. I didn't pilfer. Desperately, she said. I figured you might not mind looking after you. My voice became piercing. Once more, she cast her gaze downward. Ava, you made your decision, I said. You chose your dad. Christine was your choice. Go ask them for assistance. Her voice cracked as she stated, they don't have the money. I gave a faint smile. It's not my problem. She opened her mouth. She gave me the impression that she didn't know who I was. I said, you mentioned that Christine was family. Ask your family. Please, Mom. I gave a headshake. She flinched. We'll lose the house, Mom. It's not my home. She gave me a prolonged look. Her eyes then became steely. You're being mean, she muttered. I gave a chilly smile. No, I'm being reasonable. In her face, I closed the door. And I didn't feel bad for the first time in my life. A week went by, no phone calls, don't text, nothing. To be honest, I had assumed that Ava would return sooner rather than later. I assumed she would try again when the initial shock subsided because I had been her safety net for so many years. However, the quiet lingered. And truthfully, it was pleasant. I wasn't preoccupied with someone else's schedule, demands, or damn life for the first time in 30 years. I didn't rush back to make dinner after visiting the farmer's market. Without looking at the time, I went for a long stroll in the park. I had a glass of wine and sat on the balcony in the evening, listening just to my own thoughts. I also enjoyed it. However, peace never endures, does it? Because Uncle Ray called me approximately 2 weeks later. Laura, he uttered softly. I heard something just now. I thought you ought to be aware. With a groan, I prepared myself. What? With caution, Ray stated, it's about Ava and Daniel. It was, of course. I squeezed my nasal bridge. Continue. He declared, they're losing the house. Daniel's hours were reduced by his job. 2 of their mortgage payments have been late. The bank is preparing to foreclose. My chest twisted with a stinging pang of remorse. However, I suppressed it. That isn't my issue, I stated calmly. Ray paused. Yes, but things get worse, I scowled. How? They no longer live alone, Ray stated. Christine and Michael, I felt chilled. They extended an invitation to move in. I gripped the phone more tightly. They were taken in by Michael and Christine? Yes, Ray responded somberly. Last week, Ava and Daniel moved into Michael's house. I shut my eyes. I remarked, more to myself than to Ray. She's doubling down. I suppose so, Ray remarked. He paused before saying, but Laura, it's not going well, in my opinion. My stomach turned over. What are you saying? Christine's children are challenging, Ray stated cautiously. In their entire lives, David and Susan have never worked a day. Susan is, excuse my terminology, a professional gold digger, and David is an entitled little snot. Very nice, I whispered. Ray went on. It seems like David has been treating Ava and Daniel like employees, moving them about, consuming their food. Additionally, Susan has been approaching Daniel. I straightened my posture. Close, what do you mean? Ray let out a sigh. Look, I don't want to cause any trouble, but let's just say Susan tends to attract married men who have reliable sources of income. My chest became dangerously cold. She refused. Ray stated she would, and she is, I believe. I drew a deep breath. Well done. Ray's voice was surprised. All right? I remarked icily. Ava can handle the consequences if she chooses to associate with those individuals. Ray let out a sigh. Laura? No, I interrupted him. She made a decision. She is able to accept it. After hanging up, I spent a considerable amount of time gazing out the window as the sun sank below the horizon. Ava believed she was entering a wonderful, caring home. She was going to learn firsthand the type of individuals Michael and Christine had brought up. I also had no intention of saving her. Another week went by. Ava then arrived at my door. I nearly didn't respond because it was late after 10 o'clock. However, my curiosity overcame me. I pulled the door open. Ava appeared worn out as she stood there in the dark. Her eyes were swollen as if she had been crying, and her hair was twisted. Mom, she murmured. I folded my arms and rested against the doorframe. What are you looking for? She took a deep breath. I'm at a loss for where else to go. I remained motionless. What took place? I inquired. Her chin twitched. David and Susan. How about them? Ava shut her eyes. David has been entertaining his pals, consuming alcohol, smoking, throwing parties all day and all night. And Susan. Ava's eyes were watering. She has been flinging Daniel. I struggled to maintain a neutral expression. Was she stopped by Daniel? Ava gasped for air. Initially, but he didn't last night. I felt sick to my stomach. He was intoxicated, Ava replied in a hollow voice. He didn't push Susan away when she sat on his lap. My jaw clenched. Ava remarked, I confronted him about it this morning. Are you aware of his words? What? Ava muttered. He said I was overreacting, that it wasn't harmful, that my sensitivity was excessive. I tightened my jaw. He seems to be learning from your father. Ava exhaled nervously. Mom. What? She dabbed at her eyes. I'm not sure what to do. I looked at her for a while. I remarked, You're an adult woman. Work it out. Ava's eyes got bigger. Please, Mom, I remarked icily. You ignored my warnings about them. You picked them instead of me. You can now handle the consequences. Her cheeks began to well up with tears. I had no idea it would be this way. That's the issue, I stated. You never give things much thought. Her shoulders began to tremble. Please, Mom, I apologize. All I wanted was a true family. Ellie should have grandparents, I hoped. And how did you find that to be? She flinched. She muttered, I'm not sure what to do. I bent over. Go away from him, I said. Her gaze expanded. What? Daniel won't change, I declared. And you won't be preferred over their own children by Michael and Christine. But there is nothing you owe them, I responded sternly. Go now. Ava's lip quivered. I'm unable to, she muttered. Then I am unable to assist you. New tears welled up in her eyes. I said, Good night, Ava. I closed the door. Additionally, this time, I felt no remorse. Ray called again the following day. He declared, You won't believe this. Give me a try, Ray said. Susan, she was caught with Daniel together. My heart fell. Captured? Ray said at a hotel. Ava interrupted them. I took a firm seat. What was done by Ava? Ray sounded a bit too amused when he stated, She slapped Susan across the face. Half of the hotel workers called her a gold-digging tramp. My mouth quirked. And Daniel? Ray remarked somberly. Packed a bag and left with Susan. Naturally, Christine stood up for them. Informed Ava that she was exaggerating. She did, of course. After that, she came to you? I made a guess. Yes, Ray replied. She inquired as to whether I believed you would bring her back. I gave a faint smile. What did you tell her too? Ray remarked. I told her she could ask you herself. But really? I believe she is too afraid. She ought to be. Ray laughed. What are you going to do, Laura? I watched the sky become darker as I gazed out the window. To be honest, I responded, I don't know. And that seemed plenty for once. Ava returned to my door 2 days later. I was brewing tea when I heard the knock. I nearly disregarded it. However, a deep-seated maternal instinct forced me to move in the direction of the door. I opened it to find Ava standing there. She was crying so hard that her eyes swelled. She appeared thinner than I remembered, and her hair was knotted. Mom, she uttered softly. I rested my weight on the doorframe. What? Her mouth quivered. Daniel abandoned me. I understand. She winced. Ray told you? I gave a nod. She opened and closed her mouth. I'm not sure where to go. I folded my arms. And who is to blame for that? Her eyes filled with tears. Please, Mom. Did you believe you would be selected? I said icily. Her gaze grew gloomy. I said, I told you. I identified them for you precisely. You also disregarded me. Ava gasped for air. I believed that they would love me if I was good enough and put in enough effort. I gazed at her. What was the outcome of that? Ava's shoulders began to tremble. Mom, you allowed Daniel to treat you disrespectfully, I said. You allowed Susan to bully you. You were taken advantage of by Michael and Christine. And why? She dabbed at her eyes. Because I was afraid of losing them. Anyway, you lost them. She flinched. I let out a sigh. Enter now. Ava's eyes got bigger. What? I said, I'm not saying you can stay. However, you can take a seat. Consume some food. Gather yourself. Her face lit up with relief. She entered as if she thought I may alter my mind. I poured her a cup of tea while she sat at the kitchen table. I sat across from her and kept a close eye on her. I said, Tell me everything. She inhaled nervously. Daniel and I moved in with Dad and Christine after you evicted me. Why? Because we had no money, Ava muttered. Daniel's pay was reduced in half, and we were drowning in mortgage payments. We accepted Dad's offer to help. I gave a headshake. You are aware of this. Ava flinched. I understand. But, it was simple. At first, Christine was quite kind. Susan and David appeared to be decent enough. And Dad, he pretended that he genuinely desired my presence. I was trying to make up for lost time, he claimed. I sneered. And you thought he was real? Ava's mouth clenched. I wanted to think he was real. I didn't answer. She let out a sigh. It was all right at first. Then David began to be arrogant. He would have his pals over and treat the place as though it were his own. And Daniel? Ava's lips curled. He was unconcerned, claimed that it was none of his business. I tightened my jaw. He obviously didn't. Ava resentfully remarked, then Susan started, hanging around Daniel. I initially assumed she was merely being amiable, but suddenly I became aware of small details. When she giggled, she would stroke his arm, her tendency to sit a bit too close. And Daniel? The first pushed. Ava bobbed her throat. He dismissed it, said that I was having hallucinations. You weren't. Bitterly, she laughed. I now understand that. I reclined. When did it blow up then? Ava's eyes became gloomy. Last week. I discovered them when I got home early from a work-related event. Within a hotel room. Slowly, I shook my head. And Christine? She stood up for them. Ava stated sharply. Claimed that I was being insecure and that Susan was young and just having fun. My blood froze. And Michael? He remained silent. Ava muttered. He remained motionless as Christine offered justifications. He did, of course. Ava has sparkling eyes. That evening, I packed Ellie's belongings and departed. I went out to the driveway with Daniel in tow. Are you aware of his words? What? Ava retorted. He said I was overreacting, that men cheat is commonplace, that I needed to be more understanding if I didn't want him to go. I balled my fists. What did you say too? Ava's tone became stern. Go to hell, I told him. My mouth quirked. Well done, girl. Her breath came out shakily. But now, I arched an eyebrow. Now what? Ava said. Ellie doesn't want to see me. My heart fell. Why? Ava resentfully remarked. Because Susan got to her, began purchasing toys for her, being like a princess to her. After referring to her as Auntie Susan, Ellie declared a few days ago that she would prefer to live with Susan than with me. A shiver went down my back. That jerk. Ava dabbed at her eyes. I have no idea how to fix it. You cannot, I stated plainly. Not at this time. Ava's head jerked upward. What? I answered. You won't win her back by fighting if Ellie is attached to Susan. You must take a step back. Allow Susan to make a mistake, she will. Ava opened her mouth. But what if, I said, you'll get your chance. All you need to do is wait. She had trembling hands. I'm not sure if I can pull that off. I bent over. You can, I said. Ava's chin twitched. I muttered, I can't fix this for you. You are no longer a child. Tears sparkled in Ava's eyes. I understand. But I'll assist you, I muttered. If you don't mind. Her breath caught. You. Would you do that? I gave a small smile. Obviously. Your mommy is me. Ava's face fell flat. Mom. I got up and spread my arms wide. Ava leaped from her seat and buried her face in my shoulder as she was embraced. I apologize, she muttered. I sincerely apologize. I stroked her hair and murmured, I know. However, what should I do? Ava suffocated. I gave a small smile. You begin anew. She embraced me tightly and said, What if I don't succeed? I answered, Then you try again. But I'll be with you this time. With wide eyes, Ava drew back. Would you actually assist me? I gave a faint smile. With one caveat. Anything, she blurted out. I said, You cut them off. Christine, Michael, Susan, David, Daniel. Every one of them. Ava's face went white. I remarked, You can't heal while you're still bleeding. And those individuals, all they are open wounds. Her breath caught. But no buts, I stated icily. Do you wish to start over? Burn that bridge. Ava opened her mouth. What if I am unable to? I said plainly. Then don't bother coming back. She took a deep breath. Then she nodded slowly. All right, she muttered. Well, I replied. Now take a seat and sip your tea. After wiping her eyes, Ava took a seat again. And for the first time in a long time, I had the feeling that we might just be able to get through this. It was 3 months later. Ava fulfilled her promise. She interrupted them. She took Ellie's hand, packed up what little she had left, and left Christine, Michael, and all of their toxic baggage behind. It wasn't simple. Christine called, again and again. Michael left voicemails that made her feel guilty. At one point, David even dared to visit Ava's apartment and complain that she was being selfish and that they were family. The door was closed in his face by Ava. What about Susan? She received what was due to her. As it happens, Daniel was every bit as snaky as Susan. He and Susan moved in together after Ava left him. However, Susan discovered a month later that Daniel's financial status wasn't as comfortable as she had assumed. Susan moved away from him to a rich banker. Daniel was laid off. He was crashing on David's couch when I last heard from him. Poetic fairness. One cautious step at a time, Ava was reconstructing her life. She relocated across town to a modest two-bedroom apartment. Although it wasn't elegant, it was secure and hygienic. She took on more work shifts and resumed saving. In order to work over years of bitterness and misdirected allegiance, she even began attending therapy. The most difficult aspect, though? Ellie. Ellie was initially perplexed. She persisted in questioning why they were no longer able to see Grandpa and Christine. She missed the attention and the gifts. Ellie was too young for Ava to tell her the whole tale, but she did make it apparent that some people, even relatives, weren't safe to have in your life. During the first few weeks, Ellie sobbed. Ava, however, remained patient. Be calm, affection. And gradually, Ellie began to return to her. Ava called me crying one evening. She referred to me as Mommy, Ava muttered. It's been months since she called me that. I grinned. She did, of course. You are her mom. Ava chuckled despite her tears. Yes, I assured her that everything would be all right. You are too. Although Ava didn't respond, I could tell she was breathing more easily. In the meantime, I was also getting used to my new existence. It was pleasant, calm. It was only when I was no longer responsible for AVA's care that I realized how much of who I was had been entwined with being her mother. I began going for long morning walks. I actually continued with the pottery class I took. I even became a member of the local library's book club. I didn't really enjoy the books, but the gossip was great. Then there was Henry. Henry was enrolled in the lesson on pottery, kind, older, and widowed. You didn't have to attempt to feel comfortable around him because of his constant warm presence. He began to sit with me once a week. After that, he began to walk me to my car. One afternoon, he then said, "Do you want to have coffee with me anytime, Laura?" I paused. I hadn't even given it much thought in such a long time. Ava has been the center of my existence for 30 years, about maintaining order and ensuring the well-being of others. Now, though, I grinned. That would be nice. Ava asked me to join her for supper in the middle of December. Only us, she remarked. Ellie, you and me. I nearly declined. However, I had to say yes because of something in Ava's voice, the vulnerability, the gentleness. That night, I brought a bag of sweets from the bakery down the street and a bottle of wine to her apartment. Ava smiled nervously as she opened the door. Enter now. The flat was cozy despite its small size. Ellie was sitting cross-legged on the floor with paper and colored pencils all around her. Grandma! When she noticed me, she chirped. I opened my arms and grinned. Ellie bumped against them, pressing her tiny face on my chest. She remarked, I missed you. Baby, I missed you too. Ava was in the kitchen observing us. Her eyes were cautious, yet she smiled. She declared, Dinner is almost ready. It's just pasta and garlic bread. Nothing fancy. That sounds great. We took a seat at the table. Ava served the meal. Ellie talked about her new instructor in school. As Ava listened and tucked a lock of hair behind Ellie's ear, her grin grew softer. Ava glanced at me halfway through the dinner. Mom, she murmured. I arched an eyebrow. Yes? Ava whispered. I want you to know how sorry I am. I said, You've already expressed regret. I understand. She bobbed her throat. But I had to say it anyway. I put my fork down and looked at her. The girl who had stood in Christine's dining room, grinning as if nothing were amiss, had changed. That young lady had been gullible, lost, desperate for affection. This Ava was unique, more powerful. She was more confident. I gave a small smile. You've improved. Ava's eyes glowed with passion. I'm making an effort, I said, and you're succeeding. Her lips trembled. Between us, Ellie glanced. Are you sobbing, Mommy? Ava shook her head and laughed softly. No, sweetheart. I'm all right. I grabbed my wine glass. To fresh starts? I murmured. Ava lifted her glass and grinned. To fresh starts. We exchanged eyeglasses, and I believed it for the first time in years. Ava and Ellie visited my house on Christmas Eve. We decorated the tree and prepared hot chocolate. Ellie carefully positioned decorations on the lowest branches while Ava sat cross-legged on the floor. I watched them from the comfort of the couch. Earlier that night, Henry had brought over a tin of handmade cookies and gone. The scent of cinnamon and sugar was still present in the air. Ava gave me a quick look. Mom? Well, she paused. Do you think we could get together for Christmas this year? Only us? I gave a quiet smile, obviously. Her eyes glistened. Mom? Yes? I cherish you, Ava muttered. My chest constricted. I also love you, I said. I could see she meant it this time. Ava was doing quite well a year later. At work, she received a promotion. She resumed dating, cautiously and gently. What about Ellie? She was developing into a bright, brave, and lovely young girl. We were still dating, Henry and me. That summer, we traveled to the coast. As we strolled along the shore, he held my hand. What about Ava? She came over for dinner once a week. The three of us, Ellie, her, and me, not a drama, no stress, just family, actual family. Michael and Christine, they made several attempts to get in touch. They went unnoticed by Ava. Susan and David, a DUI incident led to David's arrest. The banker was Susan's spouse. He was allegedly already unfaithful to her. Ava was unconcerned. I didn't either. After supper one evening, Ava and Ellie were heading out. Ellie gave me a strong waist embrace. She said, Grandma, you have my love. Baby, I love you too. Ava grinned. See you next week? I returned the smile. I'll be present. I watched them walk to the car from the window as they departed. I had dedicated all of my time, money, and emotions to Ava for 30 years. And I had pondered if it was worthwhile for a while. I knew now. Yes, it was. Because ultimately, she returned. And she stayed this time.